While Rolex have been producing commercial watches for close to a century, there are some tool and professional watches that never started off their life as a commercial product. Rather, they were made to serve to a specific profession. For example, seed dweller. If we look at the definition for tool watches, they were the watches that were always made for a purpose. The watches that work as a tool to accomplish the task. The watches that the task in question was basically always dependent on for its successful completion. In the same context, to serve the function of timing the dive, Rolex already had Submariner to offer 300 meters of water resistance, yet there was still a need to dive down deeper, hence the need for a watch with greater water resistance. And this is where the drive to produce a watch with deeper depth rating turned into reality, in the form of seed dweller. Over the period of decades, things have changed, and the watches that were initially made as tools and as instruments started to offer the experience where they were considered beyond their intended function. This was the time when watches became jewelry and the objects to offer the joy and pleasure, mesmerize the eyes and bring the smile. And when it's all about pleasure and joy of wear, it's fair to add a touch of gold to it. While it may sound and look controversial to see gold used in higher rated diver watch, when we put into perspective of looks, aesthetics and luxury attributes in watches, it all falls into place. And then a diver watch in two-tone configuration accordingly makes perfect sense. And then the construction of watch being of gold in combination with steel means that while there are looks and jewelry characters to watch, they do come at the cost of versatility and ruggedness of the watch. Firstly, because gold is a much softer metal than steel and can very easily be deformed, dented or dinged. And then the gold used here comes in fully polished finish, which although does complement the looks of the watch, yet it is very easy to scratch it compared to all brushed finish on the steel counterparts. The dial here comes with the same matte and greyish texture and color as the all steel reference. This black dial finish and color is considerably different than the glossy black you see on Submariner, and here it has more like greyish and vintage texture to it. To maintain the yellow gold tone, all the hour markers and dial hands here are made of same 18 karat yellow gold, and there's a warmness to dial that's very unique to what we have seen in all steel models. The text on the dial is all white, but the typical red text for seed dweller here comes in same gold tone as the watch, and this maintains the overall vibe that the watch has to offer. While the gold text for seed dweller does match the two-tone nature of the watch, it does break the linkage of red text that the steel reference has with the original model. The crystal on this two-tone SD43 does not come with any AR coating applied on it, neither internally nor externally, and I've confirmed this by inspecting the laser-etched Rolex logo too. The bezel is made of 18 karat yellow gold, yet the insert is ceramic, so upon day-to-day hits or bangs, the watch does have the tolerance to avoid the damage. But since the bezel teeth are gold, if they get the hit or impact, you will see the surface deformity on them. The attention to detail here is that the bezel graduations and numerals are also coated with 18 karat yellow gold, and that complements the warmer tones of the watch. The two-tone configuration in this watch maintains typical Rolex looks, and we have center links of the bracelet that are made of solid yellow gold and the side links are made of steel. The center links of gold also come with polished finish, so while it is technically a tool watch, it is easily a jewelry version of it. It is worth noting here that while Rolex have lately released watches with ever rose gold configuration, here it is yellow gold, and the looks are accordingly far more warmer than what you see in the likes of GMT root beer. I personally think it might have been an even interesting release if this was offered in ever rose gold as opposed to yellow gold. True to two-tone looks, the crown comes in full solid gold and is screwed in to offer 1220 meters of water resistance. The case side is fully polished, and this complements the blingy nature of the watch. The top surfaces of the case and the lugs are all brushed, and the other side of the case also comes in polished finish. There's helium escape valve that basically allowed this watch to go to higher depth than Submariner. The case here is relatively thicker, and we will discuss this further in the wrist shot later in the video. To show the substance of the watch, the size of bezel measured at the outer extremity is 42.89mm. To show the size of the dial, I measured the size of crystal on top, and it came on my caliber at 31.06mm. The horizontal span of the watch, with crown included, is 46.76mm. The size of the lugs measured at the narrowest point horizontally and externally is 27.03mm. The lug-to-lug height of the watch is 50.15mm, so it is a considerably substantial watch on the wrist. The width of the bracelet at the lugs is 22mm, and it tapers down to 18.99mm at the clasp, so it is a relatively larger watch with wider bracelet overall. The watch comes with solid case pack to house inside manufacturer caliber 3285 to offer 70 hours of power reserve and the accuracy of +2 to -2 seconds a day. True to diver watch, when you put the watch in the dark, there's amazing lume to not just offer legibility of time but also to mesmerize your eyes. All the dial hands are lumed, including seconds hand, so you can even use it to time seconds. The bezel has no lume in the graduations, but there's lumed bezel pip, which does make it fully functional. I left the watch in the dark for another 10 minutes and the time was still easily readable, so I take it as a pass. Under the macro, the hour hand comes with decent level of finish. There's no scratches or marks, and there's also no dust or speck on side, and the overall finish is well executed. The minute hand has superficial scratches, which you simply can't spot with naked eye, and I personally consider this finish as acceptable. While the seconds hand also didn't look too bad holistically. There's one dust particle stuck on its side, which I could easily spot even with naked eye. Where I was getting overall impressed with the finish under macro, this dust particle stuck at the side can easily annoy and ruin the whole wrist experience. And there's simply no excuse to why a watch would leave the factory with such visible dust marks easily noticeable from naked eye. The hour markers, I feel, come with better finish than you see on steel models, and it might be because of the material here being yellow gold as opposed to white gold on steel models. The text on the dial is very crisp and there are no issues or concerns on side. Similar is the case with the text for Rolex, and I have to date never seen a Rolex with lower quality for texts, and the quality is consistent here. On the wrist, the 43mm seat dweller has a wrist presence that is hard to miss, and since it is a two-tone watch, the yellow gold accents make it even louder than its steel sibling. My wrist size is 6.5 inches and wristband is 55mm, so despite the watch being on larger side, I can pull it off, although it definitely looks on a larger size for my wrist. Since the lug-to-lug height of the watch is 50mm, there is no further flaring of the bracelet past this point, so it still hugs my wrist and there is no sense that it is oversized or cantilevering over my wrist. The case thickness of the watch is 15.01mm, and with bigger size coupled with relatively thicker case, it is a chunkier watch and you do feel the substance on the wrist. But I personally consider this as a positive, as it's not meant to be a small watch or a watch that can stay under the radar. And since the chunkiness of the watch doesn't compromise on how the watch wears on the wrist, I consider it as a great watch if you want something with wrist presence. The bracelet comes with decent level of finish for both polished and brush parts, and the watch maintains the vibe it has to offer. The clasp comes with flip lock, and then there's glide lock mechanism on offer to give you the flexibility to adjust the bracelet length without use of any tools at all. Rolex Sea Dweller 43mm is a watch with history, looks, function, and then in two-tone form, which was never seen before. It comes with the experience that is one of a kind, especially when you remember that this is the first seat dweller watch in any configuration and in the history to be offered in the flesh of gold with steel and the resultant luxurious looks. It is big, it is chunkier, and it is fleshy. And although it's not thick enough that you can't slip it under the cuff, you definitely don't want a watch to be slipped under the cuff of a flights under the radar if you want SD43 in two-tone looks. It is luxurious, it has the characters of jewelry, it has the experience, looks and vibe. And then the next time you go for deep dive and exploration, it has the attributes that you can easily lean on it. At the end of the day, at heart, it is a tool watch.